We're hoping that the third time is the charm. And if not, we will go to the drawing board and set a different time and let everybody know a different time once we perfect the logging on piece. So she knows I'm logging on again. We're texting back and forth, so I'm going to wait for it. Anyway, I'm going to pretend like I can start this video. We can edit it later if we need to. It's Marylee Nunley, Facebook Live community. Glad to have you. Here's our guest, Pam Henry. I'm adding her and sending a and there she is. I believe it was on my end, Pam. There, I believe it was on our. Hallelujah.
All right, there we go. All right, there we go.
Okay, we're not seeing.
There we go.
We're seeing the palm of your hand. There we go.
There we are.
We're seeing the palm of your hand. There we go. Okay, can you? We're going to get a feedback from you. Turn your sound off of your computer.
Yep, it's done.
There we go. Hallelujah. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I am so excited that we got this far and we made it happen. I have with me Pam Neaton, and she is a stroke survivor. And as I said in the other video that had to be deleted, this Facebook Live is sponsored by Medtronic, and they do a lot of wonderful things with stroke patients. And this particular situation involves the LINQ device. It's spelled LINQ. But first, I want Pam to introduce herself and tell a little bit about her situation with her stroke. And I've got a couple of questions if she doesn't tell everything we want to know. But tell us a little bit about your stroke and how you happen to get on a path to have a LINQ device installed.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. It started as a normal day for me. I teach preschool. Nothing was different that morning, didn't feel different at all. Went to work, had my morning class. I was on a Zoom IEP meeting about 11 o'clock. Went to move the mouse on my computer, and my hand, as I describe it, was like a floppy crappy. It couldn't grasp anything. I had to take my other arm to move that arm. I'm just like, this is kind of weird, but I had my hands on, or my elbows on the desk, so I thought, well, maybe it's a pinched nerve. Continued with my IEP meeting, got off of it, and something was just not right. I felt fine. I carried on a conversation with the gal that's my helper in my classroom. I walked fine. Everything was good. Went in the bathroom and did a stroke assessment on myself. You know, close your eyes, stand on one foot, finger to nose, smile, all that kind of stuff. Nothing was showing up, but for some reason, I just felt like something wasn't right. So I ended up telling the gal that was my helper that I'm going home, you know, and you're going to, you know, find someone else to teach. We had somebody that had already been lined up in an emergency that would come for anybody in the school, so we were okay with that. I went home. I live about 12 miles from school. We're on a farm, and my husband was gone trucking grain, and I called and asked where he was, and he was about a half an hour away. I said, well, I think you need to come home, and I need to go to the hospital. This whole time, still being totally coherent, talking, my balance, everything, vision, everything was fine, just the floppy, crappy hand. So he came home. I went to our local emergency room. They took me back. Nothing really showed up other than my floppy, crappy hand. They did a CAT scan, a minimal MRI, came back into the room and told me that I had a stroke. And my response was, no, I didn't, and I don't think that's right. And he was like, yeah, you did. So through telehealth, the neurologist from the local Minneapolis hospital, Abbott Northwestern, came on to the little screen in my room and just talked about, you've had a stroke. This is what we want to do. We're going to treat you with the TPA. We're going to have you do it IV, and we're putting you in an ambulance and bringing you down to Abbott Northwestern. At which time I was like, well, why can't I just stay here? And they're kind of like, you don't understand. This is kind of serious. I'm like, okay. And at that point also, I was like at 3 hours and 45 minutes since it happened. So the neurologist just told me, he said, I can't guarantee this is going to help you, but this is something we truly need to do. So they gave me the IV, and I got in the ambulance and went with the lights and the sirens down to Abbott Northwestern, and he met us as we were coming into the neurology ICU, and very nice man, very good doctor, just kind of talked a little bit about what happened. They did numerous tests. My husband came down on Thursday, and the neurologist suggested that maybe this LINQ would be a good idea for me to have,
Now,
because they had been monitoring my heart.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Did they call it a cryptogenic stroke at the very beginning?
No, they really didn't per se name it. It was just, you had a stroke, and it's an unknown origin.
Unknown origin. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yep.
Good. Okay. Go ahead.
Yep.
Sorry.
So, nope, that's okay. Ask questions in case I forget as I'm going along. But so he just suggested this. He said, we've been monitoring your heart. There's nothing there, nothing from the hospital when you originally came in. Because as you know, sometimes they think it could be AFib. Nothing was showing up. I had numerous tests on Thursday and Friday morning, and still nothing was showing up. So he said, I think this would be a good fit for you. And I said, certainly. I mean, I still feel like it didn't happen. It seems very surreal to me. And especially being that I wasn't sick, I had no other symptoms. I only had the floppy, crappy hand. My memory was good. I did take an aspirin at school after I came out of the bathroom and did the stroke assessment. Not thinking it was a stroke, but I don't know why I did that, but I did it anyway. So yeah. And then I just, that Friday, it was a Wednesday that it happened, Wednesday at noon, and Friday about 3 o'clock, I had the LINQ inserted. So.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about what that procedure is like.
So it's very easy, very basic, really no pain or anything involved. My concern, I've never been in a hospital. I'm 60 plus years old, never been in a hospital, never had a surgery, anything like that. I was worried, like, okay, do I need to be put under or blah, blah, blah. Didn't. They basically just do a local anesthesia right there where they insert it. They numb the area, and they just cut a little hole, a little incision, and they insert that LINQ, and you'll hear it click in there, because there's a box I shouldn't say a box because it sounds really bad, but there's just this little container that they put in there, and then the LINQ slides in it, and then it just clicks. There's no stitch to it. There's basically nothing. They just put a Band-Aid over it, and you're good to go. So it took longer for people to all get there and get together, because you have to have a representative from Medtronic in the room with you. That took longer than it took to have the procedure done. It was just, I didn't even think I got to think about it for 5-10 minutes, and it was done. So I didn't have any problems when I came home. I didn't, get an infection. Obviously, you can't shower and get water there, but yeah, so
it's all
and what that does, yep, it's all healed up. I mean, it healed up really fast. It was a year ago, March 3rd, that I had it, the LINQ
Okay.
installed.
Okay.
And then I came home that Friday, got home about 10 o'clock that night, and when you have a LINQ monitor like this in you, it looks like a cordless phone that's next to your bed. And then at night it transmits every night, like between 2 and 5 in the morning, transmits down to Abbott Northwestern. They look at it and then they can tell, like, oh, if my heart AFib'd or if something was weird with my heart that night. So that's every day. And then once a month you send a manual one, which kind of takes a glimpse of the whole month ahead of time. So
And how did, I guess from a psychological or an emotional standpoint, does it give you some peace of mind? How does it make you feel, like knowing that your heart is being monitored, even though it wasn't a big heart issue, it very well could have been, because strokes with no known origin can be from undetected AFib, and it may be
right.
not very often. So talk to us a little bit about how that makes you feel to have this, maybe the security of that.
It really sets my mind and my body at ease because I know that someone is watching that. And my husband said that too. He's like, I'm gone all day, and if something would happen to you, but you don't know it, at least at night we'd know when that, is getting transmitted during the night. And I know it works. I was home probably 3 months with it. And I got a phone call from Abbott Northwestern and they said, "Hey, how you feeling?" And I'm like, feeling fine. And they're like, "Okay, well, something weird showed up on your transmission last night. So can you just send a manual one? Because we want to check." And I was like, oh boy, you panic right away and get all scared. And the
Sure.
nurse was very reassuring. She said, "It's nothing to worry about. Sometimes this happens if it's updating and it's transmitting at the same time. Just don't worry about it, but we need to get it figured out." So I transmitted and they called back within 15 minutes and said, "Yep, that's what happened. It was transmitting and it was updating and it just showed something weird in that heart part." So I know it works. So that makes me feel even better because sometimes you do this stuff and you think, okay, how does all this technology really work? I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
this thing really works or, whatever, but it gave me peace of mind that, oh yeah, if something happens, um,
Yeah.
they're there watching. So
Yeah. One of the other things, and I don't have it with me right now, but we have a prototype of the LINQ. And if I were going to describe it, I would say it's about the third, like if you had a ballpoint pen, about a third of the length of a ballpoint pen if it were flattened out, instead of being round, a little bit flattened. It's just a tiny
yep.
little thing, and you really can't feel it at all, right? It's under the surface. Is it behind your collarbone? Is it near your collarbone?
Yes, it's a little lower than that, but you can
Okay.
feel it in there, but it just feels like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say a lump because that's probably not a good description either, but
No,
you
but
can feel it
yeah,
in there.
I
Um,
I've still got my chemo port. I know exactly what you're talking about. I can feel it
yeah,
under there, but I can feel it with
yeah,
my finger, but I can't feel it otherwise.
right. And it doesn't bother me. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't interfere with anything. So you
So
really don't know it's there.
if we have any stroke survivors watching this, and they have particularly a stroke of, no known origin, um, would you recommend they at least ask the question about this? What would your advice be to someone, or if they know they've had some AFib, and a stroke, what would your advice be for them to look into it? What would you say?
I would definitely say, talk to your doctor and look into it. I mean, it's amazing the technology that they can do now, but also just that unknown. And it's interesting because when I had my stroke and I talked about this to people and that, they thought it could be AFib, but nothing showed up in the hospital and whatever. Numerous people that I had no idea had AFib. and they were like, oh, I have AFib, but the doctors never said anything about this. Well, it might not be a fit for everybody, but I really encourage people to ask because you never know. And this is something that I feel strongly about. I mean, it's really helped me being I had no other issues, and that stroke just really took me by surprise. I look
Absolutely.
back and I still keep thinking I didn't have a stroke, but obviously I did because everything showed up I did. But so
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the AFib thing is, and I don't know a lot about it. My husband has congestive heart failure besides the stroke, and he has an IED, which is a similar, much larger device doing different things. And some AFib shows up a little bit with him, nothing drastic, but when they show you the chart, it's like, wow, that little thing with the little does look like a phone sitting next to the bed. So the
right,
technology is fascinating, and I think if it can give us a better quality of life, and if it can give us peace of mind, to know that everything's being monitored, I just think that's terrific for those that need that. I'm not saying everybody needs to run out, but if there's anything
right,
with your heart or your um, stroke of unknown origin, I think it'd be terrific to have at least a consult about it.
right. And I agree because I think it's so important to be your own advocate. Um, and it might not be a good fit for everybody, but in my case, it worked out really well. And also being that I just had no clue I had a stroke. I mean,
Right,
to me,
right,
stroke
yeah,
is always like you can't talk, your speech is slurred, your balance is off, your vision is bad, you can't do any of that stuff. Um, and I just didn't have that. I just had the floppy, crappy hand thing going. And I
right.
will say, after they gave me the TPA, it's about a, I don't know, maybe half hour, 40-minute ride to the hospital from where we're at. By the time I got to the hospital, my hand was starting to get back to where it should be. So that TPA did also help that situation.
Yeah, it was helped with the resolution of what was going on, because that, I think that's one of the
Yeah.
things, this really isn't in my notes, but this one of the things, that sometimes people will have like a minor stroke, or they'll have a little TIA, and they say, oh, it's there and gone, not knowing that it could be a precursor for something worse. So I think all your
Right.
decisions were the right ones, and certainly has given you a back to normal quality of life.
Correct. I agree with that. And I
So
still feel I have reminders that I had one. I mean, I have limitations with my hand. I feel like it's not totally all there, but it just could be so much worse. And I was so fortunate to have such great care. Um, I'm just really lucky. I have a cousin that had one 2 weeks after I did, that's younger than I am. And unfortunately, hers did not turn out as well. And she did not have the care that I had. And she lives
yeah,
north, in the
yeah.
northern part of our state. And she just did not have the care I had. So I was very fortunate.
Very fortunate. Well, thank you. I was looking to see if there were any questions. Maybe I'll give everybody just a few seconds if there's any questions, um, that anyone has. But I think you've covered it very, very well. I thank you so much for your time and all the agony we went through to make it happen. Oh,
It worked though.
so, well, you know what? That's
It's
right.
interesting.
I watch the Facebook pages. So if anybody poses a question that I can't answer, I'll just reach out to you, Pam, and we'll get an answer to the question.
Sounds
How's that
perfect.
sound? Okay. Well,
Sounds good.
viewers, we'll be posting our June schedule very soon, and you'll see what we've got planned for June as far as our Facebook Live and our Zoom support meeting. So everybody have a great Monday evening, or whatever time it is you're watching this. And thanks again, Pam. We will see everyone soon.